To the Side Hustlers Society podcast, the place where you can find out more about the hustles that are best for you. And of course, make more money in the process. Elijah has been in the gig economy and freelance space for over 8 years and has done over 4,000 deliveries on Uber Eats. Has several video editing clients, many properties on Airbnb, runs multiple YouTube channels, and is the author of the best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success. It's his mission to empower people with the tools needed to be successful. Now, welcome your host, the king of the side hustles, Elijah Bilel.
What's up, my fellow hustlers? I'm your host, Elijah. Welcome to another episode of the Side Hustler Society. Excited to get into this episode. Might be one of the shorter episodes, but there's nothing wrong with that. Before we go ahead and dive heavy into it, you'll see that a lot of people that are actually checking out the podcast aren't actually subscribed to us on YouTube. So if you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, it'd be greatly appreciated. We're looking to grow the podcast channel significantly this year so we can do more episodes and bring you more value. But in order for us to do that, we do need to see a little more engagement so we can spend more money on the podcast, get more guests, and upgrade it. So if you can give a thumbs up to the video and subscribe if you're new, or subscribe if you're not subscribed yet, greatly appreciate it, and we'll be able to take this even further than what we've been doing. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today. So as usual, we'll be talking about lead generation. I'm going to be rocking solo because for the most part, what I'm going to be talking about is pretty creative, and it's going to be bringing in the gig economy. And y'all already know my foundations as a content creator started with the gig economy, specifically rideshare. I know a lot of y'all people who do deliveries out there, y'all assume, wait, Elijah, like you made so many Uber Eats videos, like you didn't start with delivery? No, I didn't. I started with rideshare. Keeping it 100, I actually like rideshare better than food delivery. It's just the opportunity from a content creation perspective was in food delivery, and there was too much of an opportunity cost for me to keep doing rideshare because with me and a burrito being in the car, I can listen to whatever I want. So I could gobble up as many audiobooks as I could handle. Versus rideshare, they either want silence or they want a particular type of music, and it's not feasible to put on an audiobook. So I focused on delivery because of that. But I love talking to, in particular, the airport requests. You're taking accountants, lawyers, families on vacation, to the airport, and they're so talkative, and they'd be surprised that this Uber driver could hang with them when it comes to having a business conversation or a finance conversation. I also like taking the college students around SMU, which is a local college here in Dallas, hearing their own campus stories and, sharing some of my own back in the day. I really love that. So that's why I love rideshare more. But I'm getting a little bit off track. So in this podcast, we're going to actually be showing how the gig economy can be used to generate leads for your business if you do it the right way. Now, if y'all are keeping track, last episode, we kind of shared the different forms of marketing, right? Well, this would fall under the category of inbound offline marketing. Reason being is that some of the tactics I'm going to be talking about are going to be bringing customers or potential customers or clients to you with very, very, very little effort and really expense, since the gig economy is going to provide the opportunity for you to do that. There will be some tactics that will fall under the outbound offline marketing too. But that's what we're going to be going into. So before we even get started with these, the magic number is 5. So we're going to go and stick with that. It's going to be 5 ways that you can generate leads using the gig economy. 3 of them are going to be with delivery, and 2 of them are going to be with rideshare. That way, like, both audiences are kind of satisfied, if you get my meaning. But right off the bat, one thing that's crucial for most of these ways is you need to have a business card. And that business card really needs to have a QR code. And that QR code needs to go to your webpage, which we talked about in the last podcast, or your website. Now, if you want to know exactly how to set that up, or how to set up a QR code and link it to a website, that's something that I discussed in my membership group. And it's also something I talk about in my freelancer course that's available on the sidehustlersociety.com. So if you want to get more in-depth information about how to make this stuff pop off as a freelancer, or if you just want to know how to make good money being self-employed by knowing the sales techniques and also the marketing techniques to get yourself out there, consider swinging by the Side Hustle Society and picking up that course or joining the membership group. But with that being said, if you don't know the stuff I just said, you can actually Google it. So Google QR code and how to put a website in a QR code. Some websites will pop up, some tutorials will pop up, and you can get that taken care of. But you need those two things: QR code to go to your webpage or website, and you need a business card. Now that that's out the way, we're going to start off with the first way of generating leads for your freelancer business or just your service-based business is, well, technically it can be any business. I mean, let's scroll the camera down. See, hustler's gonna hustle while haters gonna hate. I use this to promote the Side Hustle Society when I do delivery too. Starting off with rideshare, then we'll go into delivery. So this one is the obvious one. Just talk to people. Every time, well, not every time, but I want to say 80% of the time, when I do a rideshare request, most of them ask me, so what else do you do aside from Uber? Or what else do you do aside from Lyft? Because they're genuinely curious. Part of them is just making conversation, but they know your career path isn't to be the best Uber driver that you can of all time for the rest of eternity. No, they know you're doing this to make ends meet, and this is probably a side hustle, and you're doing something else full time. So they ask that question to just kind of start the conversation off. And you share that you have a full time job here, or you have a business here, or you're trying to get this off the ground, and it's just a conversation starter. But with that being said, since they ask, you need to have a prepared answer. So go ahead and share what you do. But I do recommend that it's prepared because the way you share it could build intrigue in their mind. And this is where the business card and QR code comes into play. So they ask you, well, let's do a little role play. So I'm a video editor, right? They ask me, so what else do you do aside from Uber and Lyft? I tell them, oh, well, I'm actually a freelance video editor. I got my start by doing YouTube for a good while, and once my channel got monetized, I saw that there are people that needed those skills that I developed as a video editor because you're not going to get monetized on YouTube if you can't keep someone's attention for more than 8 seconds. So you really got to know how to work that footage, add B-roll and this kind of stuff to keep people visually engaged. I started doing that for other people and getting paid for it. So that's how I kind of ended up semi-sliding into becoming a professional video editor. Gotta be quiet. Like, well, that's intriguing. Then they want to know more. Now, why would they want to know more? I framed it in an intriguing way, and then I shut up. Because it's supposed to be a conversation. If you talk too much, it's going to sound too much like a sales pitch. They need to be asking you questions about exactly what you do. And that's how you do it. I'm not going to go heavy into this little like back and forth demonstration because if you remember, we talked about social skills earlier in the podcast and using the grip formula. It really falls under the same category, particularly the G and the R. So I'll refer y'all back to that podcast if you want to know how to build rapport with people. But the important thing is that you let them know what you do, and they're probably going to ask some questions from there. Go ahead and finish the trip, take them where they need to go. But before they leave the car, say it was a pleasure driving you such and such. If you're ever curious about what we talked about in terms of my service, here's my business card. Feel free to reach out to me by phone or visit my website. With that being said, you have a nice day, sir or ma'am, and leave it at that. Rideshare gives a brilliant opportunity because since they are in your car, you can actually build a decent amount of rapport, especially if they're in there for longer than like 10 minutes. If it's under 10 minutes, it's really only so much you can do. Now, I would still leave the business card with them, but I would just kind of tamper my expectations because like you have trips where essentially they're going across the street, which is a little ridiculous if you ask me. Like, why don't you just walk? But whatever. They wanted to take an Uber or Lyft across the street. If it's going to be under like 2 or 3 minutes, I probably wouldn't even bother, to be honest. If they ask me, I'll tell them what I do, but I wouldn't give them a business card. I think that's a waste of a business card, to be honest, because chances is like nothing is probably going to happen. And you're going to get so many people in your car doing rideshare just for a single day. I don't think it's one of those things where, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm going to, tap everyone in terms of giving them this business card so you can get as many opportunities out there as possible. You don't want to, unless you're going to endlessly be ordering business cards and you're okay with that, you don't want to run out towards the end of the day. And then there's this perfect person that actually may need your service, but you're out of business cards. You know what I'm saying? So that's why if they're in the car for less than like 3 minutes, and I know because they're only like a mile away, I wouldn't even go in that direction with this. Moving on to the second way of generating leads is this QR code that we talked about comes into play. So you got your car, and most people hop in the back seat. Very few people will hop in the front seat with you, and you could even, well, you get what I'm saying. So one thing you can do is you get the QR code, you print 2 pages off with the QR code big in it, and you put these words on the pages. These words are, excuse me, referring to my notes. I get this question a lot. Scan here to see my business, or something around that. Why would you do this? Because people are naturally curious about QR codes. Even if you get the quiet type that doesn't want to talk, because you will get some people that they don't want to talk to you. Every now and then you'll get someone that gets in the car, like you can tell their body language, they don't want to talk. So you might, hey, what's up? I'm your Uber driver. Then they start driving and they just don't want to talk, and you pick up on it. So you just turn the music up and they may not say hardly anything the whole ride. That's fine. But if they see that QR code, they might get curious and scan it. And the thing is, this isn't really that out there because they know that people tend to ask Uber drivers, what do they do? So you're actually just simplifying it. And at the end of the day, they don't have to scan the code. So don't feel like you're making an awkward situation or like anything like that. It's really not. The only way this will make an awkward situation is if you start being pushy towards getting them to scan the QR code. And you don't want to do that. So the QR code is a natural extension of the first way of generating leads, because instead of giving them the business card, well, you can still end with giving them the business card. But chances are when you're talking to them and they ask you what you do, they've already scanned the QR code, and then they'll see their webpage and they might start asking questions about your service. Now, that's a good thing. I mean, that communicates interest, whether it's they need the service or they know someone that has the service, or even if someone who needs the service, or even if they're just making conversation, that's a good direction for the conversation to go. But the key thing is just to not be pushy towards it and let the customer control the conversation. This is where you can do all this kind of stuff, and you'll start getting these calls out of the blue, or on your webpage, whatever your call to action is, whether it's for them to sign up for something or buy this or give you a call here. We covered that in the last podcast, so you can check that out if you're confused on what call to action to put on the webpage. But this is where you start getting stuff like this out of the blue. Because remember, how many people, let's say if you do 8 hours of rideshare in one day, how many people end up in your car? I mean, unless you just happen to get a lot of long trips that day, then it might be like 6 or 7 people. It's probably going to be closer to like 20 or 25 people. That's 20 or 25 opportunities for people to learn about your service. And out of all those people, there's going to be some kind of conversion rate. So if you're doing rideshare for the money, you might as well make the most out of it and have it serve you in every single way, right? So don't feel bad about doing any of this stuff. Next, we're going to switch gears to delivery. Since I know a lot of people in the gig economy that watch me, they are delivery drivers. And some of y'all may have started a business, or you got your skill or trade, but you're still in the gig economy on the delivery side. Well, how can I make the delivery side work for me? Is that even possible? Because I think rideshare, most people, they kind of saw this coming. The QR code might have been something new for you, but you already knew that you can talk to someone since they're in the car with you. Delivery is a little different. You got limited interaction with the customer themselves. In fact, in a lot of cases, like ever since the pandemic, most customers have that leave at door option. So you don't even interact with them at all in terms of like physically, it's not even to give them the food, most of them. So how can delivery still serve as a lead generator? Well, let's get into it. So the first thing you can do to generate leads as a delivery driver is when you're waiting for the food after you've accepted a delivery request, stay off the phone. What I mean, stay off the phone, I'm talking about for those of y'all that are listening to me, I just put my phone up to my ear. This is one thing I used to do all the time. And at the time, I wasn't like, I wasn't a freelance video editor. So it wasn't like I was doing something quote unquote wrong at the time. But I would love it if y'all could do better than me because y'all have something to offer and you're missing an opportunity. But if you're talking to a friend or family member or whatever on the phone, just to make the time pass while you're making money with delivery, that's cool. But just be aware that if you're going to be doing that, you're going to be losing this opportunity. Stay off the phone and actually just talk to the people around you. Once again, you're sitting here waiting for the food. Other delivery drivers will probably be coming in and out waiting for their food. You can talk to them, socialize. And one of the first things you could ask, since y'all are both in this situation, is, how long have you been doing delivery for? Oh, I've been doing it for such and such. Okay, I've been doing it for about 7 years on and off. But I mainly do this. In my case, I'm mainly a video editor, but I do this just to make some extra money every now and then. Now, how about you? You got something that you're working towards building? And they may say, "Oh, I'm just doing this while I'm in college just to make some extra money. I want to have some extra money. I'm tired of like being broke." Then I might say something like, "Oh, okay. So you in college right now? Well, those are going to be some of the funnest years of your life, especially if I'm talking to a male. We'll get into like, does he do any sports or like, whatever his friends do in his free time? What's the eye candy looking like on campus? Several things we could talk about. Once again, work the grip formula like we already talked about. But the important thing is, eventually you're going to get your food. And you don't have to talk to them for an extremely long time. You may talk to them for just 2 or 3 minutes, then one of y'all will get the order that you're waiting for. Leave them a business card or give them a business card. And ask if whatever they're working on, if they have one for you too. So this is an even exchange. See how this is getting your information out there? But if you were talking on the phone, no one's going to talk to you because you are busy. So that's what I mean by there's an opportunity cost. And the same can really be applied for really anyone in the restaurant. I said delivery drivers because that's the easiest like route to talk to someone because y'all are both there for the same reason. They're a DoorDash driver. You might be an Uber Eats driver. You can walk up to them like, "Hey, has it been pretty busy out there for you?" "Oh, it's been kind of slow." Or, "Yeah, it's been real busy." That's just an easy way to generate a conversation. But you could talk to really anyone. It comes down to how quote unquote seasoned you are at starting a conversation. But at the very least, you could talk to the delivery drivers that are also waiting. The fourth method that we're going to talk about that could serve as lead generation using the gig economy, delivery in particular, is actually what you're wearing. I used to do this a lot back in the day. So I have it on the screen right now. And this wasn't for my freelance stuff, like I said, but it was for the app lifestyle, which is what this channel used to be called. It used to be called the app lifestyle before it was called the Side Hustler Society. But you see on the merch, essentially this is a lead generation, not just for the app lifestyle, but back in the day, you make a lot of money with Uber or Lyft mainly Uber referrals, where if you refer someone and they do a certain amount of trips, Uber will pay you for that. I'll just let the money on the screen, speak for itself. But with that being the case, this shirt would draw a lot of attention, like not just from people who are already doing like delivery, but like just in general, like, wow, that's so. What do you do? Oh, okay. So you make money from your phone? What ways can you make money from your phone? I'm going to lead the conversation to how much money I make doing Uber Eats, and I can show them how much money I make literally on the spot because you can just pull out your phone and just go to your earnings. They get intrigued, and I tell them, well, you could do this in the sign up process, which I have video. They're still up, but I have videos on how to sign up for Uber. And essentially, they would sign up for Uber and do their trips, and I would get paid for it. I mean, there's not much more to say. But what I was wearing played a big role in that because I didn't even have to initiate a conversation. Or if I started talking to someone, they would just ask like, so what's up with the merch? That's pretty interesting. So just think about that. What things can you wear to get people's attention to talk to you? That's one way of looking at it. But if you have some kind of merch that promotes your freelancing services or your business, I would wear that in particular when you're doing food delivery because it's just a walking advertisement for what you do. Everyone you interact with can know what you do. And if they're interested, they're going to ask you some questions. Free advertisement. Good example. One of my friends, Tony, he has his own janitorial service, but they branched off into doing like a bunch of stuff. Like, well, I say a bunch of stuff. I'm talking about like trees that have fallen down on houses because of heavy winds or whatever. His crew has the tools that literally chop up a tree and get it off the house, stuff like that. It's crazy how much he's expanded. But his business is Whirlwind Services, and he has his own clothes that he has his employees wear, where it's like a tornado and it has the word Whirlwind Services on it. So let's just say if he was to do food delivery, I would say he should wear that shirt because people are going to be wondering, like, so what is Whirlwind Services? Then boom, he can start talking about his business and follow some of the stuff that we talked about here. That's a good example of how you could be promoting your business by wearing something. And if you don't have your own merch in some form, I'm gonna be honest, I would go to Fiverr and think of something to wear and get that designed by a designer, put that on a t-shirt, and do that when it comes to food delivery. Yeah, that is a little more steps than just like picking something out of your closet. But every time you go out, there will be an additional opportunity to make you more money and get you more clients. I think that's an even trade-off if you ask me. Plus, any money you spend on this, not a tax advisor, entertainment purposes only, but it is tax deductible, right? Keep track of it. I'm just saying. And the final way that you can use these food delivery apps to generate leads for your business is probably my favorite way out of everything we talked about. But you need to have the business cards and you need to put it on the bag of the people that you're delivering food for. That way they'll be exposed to your business card before they start chowing down. How do you do this? Let's first talk about what you don't do. Don't open the bag and put your business card in there. That's a no-no. Because if you've opened the bag, that's actually against the terms of service of Uber and DoorDash and all these food delivery apps. And that's the quick way for you to get booted off the platform because you're supposed to deliver a closed bag. You could have technically eaten some fries or done something to the food and they complain to Uber and you're going to be gone pretty fast and rightfully so. So don't open the bag and put your business card inside. What you do is you get your business card. So this is mine in case y'all want to have a visual representation. And you get a stapler. I would get a small stapler because that way it's more portable. And you staple it to the bag and you deliver that. All right. Nothing wrong with that because it's still staying on the outside of the bag and they're going to actually see it. There's always a chance that if you were opening the bag and they get their food and then they just throw the rest of it away, with the napkins and the stuff that they didn't want or don't need, they may not even see your card. There's a chance that could happen. If it's on the outside, they're at least going to see it. Now, I'm not saying that every single person that sees your card is going to look at it and scan the QR code. This stuff tends to give like a relatively low conversion rate, like maybe 3 to 5%. But the point is, you have so much volume in a day that 3 to 5% can actually really start adding up because you're going to be doing this anyway. Why not have it in a way to where it's going to serve your business needs? This is where you start getting these calls out of the blue that people that need your service or have questions about your service. You do stuff like this. Back in the day, in order to play the numbers game in this fashion, people would do some kind of mail advertising, knowing that only 3% of people are actually going to go to this website or call this number but the point is, it's in such a massive volume that 3 to 5% is enough to go ahead and work with. I mean, think of how many people stay in one zip code alone. And you have all these, like this catalog of your products or value proposition that you're sending out to people on a weekly or monthly basis. And only like 3 to 5% of them do the call to action that you want. And among those people, maybe 10% of people are closing and actually buying your service. It doesn't matter because it's such a huge amount of people. A small conversion is fine. I mean, anytime the colder a lead is, the smaller a conversion is going to be because they know you less and less. But the point is to do as many as possible in terms of numbers, and you'll be fine. That's the whole concept of this show, is really a way of hitting the numbers in a creative way using the gig economy, because you're going to be coming into contact with a lot of people by default. Why not just have this work for you? Now that we've covered that last tip, and that's my favorite one, that leads us to the end of this particular episode. Let me know, which tip did you find the most intriguing and you're excited to implement for your business. This has been Elijah with the Side Hustle Society. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. We're really looking on, trying to build our subscriber base so we can put more effort and energy into the show for y'all. And don't forget to like the video, as it helps us with the YouTube algorithm. I will catch y'all later. Be sure to be safe and be profitable, everyone.
This episode may be over, but your hustling journey has just started. Visit thesidehustlersociety.com to access all links and resources mentioned in the show that will help you on your hustler's journey.
Okay. Sorry, y'all, I'm having some technical difficulties. It's like this thing forgot one of my settings. All right, so we're good now. So that concludes the podcast segment of the Money Monday live stream, where I talked about exactly how you can use the gig economy to serve as basically a big lead generator for your business. Because no one wants to be doing Uber Eats or DoorDash, whatever, full time. You obviously are working on something on the side, or you probably have some kind of business you're trying to get off the ground. So why not have this gig economy finance the acquisition of customers for you? At least that's how I see it, because you're getting paid the money that Uber or DoorDash or whatever is paying you, right? And you can be getting your name out there too. I don't see any problems with that scenario at all. But moving on from that, we're gonna go into this Uber Eats Shop and Pay segment. But before we do so, I gotta ask y'all to like this video. Helps with the YouTube algorithm, so give it a big thumbs up. Much, 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 very much appreciated. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you're new. I also want to make an announcement that we also have memberships on the channel now. And this is different from the Self-Made Business Academy, in case you're wondering. Now, if you are in the Self-Made Business Academy, you already have what's going to be on the channel, because you have access to the SMBA Video Vault, which gives you all the content that comes out on the Side Hustle Society, and non-tutorial content on financial anatomy. But if you're not in the Self-Made Business Academy, we have channel memberships where you can sign up, and depending on the level that you sign up at, you'll get a level of a certain perks. We have a starter hustler, side hustler, and full-time hustler. So I'm going to leave a link to that in the chat. But essentially, depending on what level you sign up at, not only will you be supporting the channel, but you'll get a priority responding to comments, certain badges, and you'll also get access to videos early. So you'll get to check out content before the normal audience does. And if you're at the highest tier, you'll get access to my best-selling book, The Anatomy of Financial Success, the audiobook version. So let me go ahead and drop that link here in the chat. Join the SMH membership. And y'all can check that out when y'all are ready. But with that being covered, let's talk about this Uber Shop and Pay. So I got a confession to make. I'm a novice when it comes to shopping, when it comes to the gig economy. I always did delivery, and that's why y'all always saw delivery content. And by delivery, I'm talking about like Uber Eats, DoorDash, where I go in a restaurant, like let's say Popeye's Chicken, and I'm picking up food and taking it to the customer. That's delivery. And y'all know I started out doing rideshare, but as far as grocery shopping, I had never actually done that until a month ago, when Uber sent me like this crazy quest where like, hey, if you do 3 shopping orders, we're gonna give you like $30. And I was thinking, hmm, well, could it hurt to give it a try? No. So I decided to do it. But I was signed up for shopping trips for a good while, but I never took them when I went online because the trips that I was getting, they were so crappy. I'm talking about, I don't have any screenshots to show y'all, unfortunately, as far as an example of how bad these trips were, but they're like 2, 3, 4 bucks to go. What doesn't matter how far I was going inside and shopping and making 3 or 4 bucks is just crazy. But those were the type of orders or requests that I was getting. That's why I never got involved in Uber Shop and Pay until they sent me that quest. So I get a $4 order come in, but when I do the math, I got to do 3 to make $30. Well, that means that order is technically worth $14 now. So then I'll entertain it. They were expanding into my area, and somehow between now and then, I guess customers figured out that they have to actually tip to get people to take their orders. So the $3 orders stopped, and it started becoming more 7, 8, $9 orders. And eventually they started to increase like 12, 15, sometimes $19 orders. And that's when I really saw that, you know what, this actually is pretty valid. So I've been doing Uber Eats Shop and Pay. That's what I'm calling it. I don't know if they call it anything else. I'm just going to call it Uber Eats Shop and Pay, which is the same as Instacart. I've been doing it for about a month. And I got to say, I like it. And I have some tips that I want to share with y'all. But before I do that, let me know in the chat if y'all have any experience with Uber Eats Shop and Pay, or if you're thinking about doing it, and leave any questions or comments there because I would love to hear y'all's take on it. And depending on how much interest I see, I might start making more content about Uber Eats Shop and Pay. But first off, this isn't a tutorial because I will make an official Uber Eats tutorial on how to do Uber Eats Shop and Pay probably in the middle of next month. So don't take this as a tutorial. I'm just going to be sharing some tips that are great to know because I found them out through doing it, and I would like y'all to avoid the common mistakes that I personally made. And I do know a few things because I used to be a stalker. Get your head out of the gutter. And I'm not talking about that kind of stalker. I'm talking about when I was in my early 20s, I used to work at a Walmart and later Whole Foods, and I was one of the people that would stock the shelves. So I know exactly how a store is kind of formatted and how the shelves are arranged, little stuff, big stuff like that. And I would love to share those tips with y'all since essentially what you're going to be doing when you're shopping is you're going to be doing a lot of scanning and analyzing, trying to find things. And there's some good tips to know to speed up that process. So started off with tip number 1. And like I said, I'm still kind of new at this, so I have notes. So don't butcher me in the comments. It's not like Uber Eats where I've been doing this for years. Uber Eats delivery where I've been doing it for years. So this stuff just comes out the top of my head. Still kind of new to this, so I got notes. First tip is actually knowing the busy times to actually do the shopping. Because just like rideshare and normal food delivery, grocery shopping does have its like cycles in terms of when it's busy throughout the day. So like with rideshare, the peak times like between 6 and 9 a.m. where you get an airport requests, people going to work. Then 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. is really popping on Uber Eats and food delivery. Then between 3 and like 7, people are getting off work, so it's really popping on rideshare. And between 5 and like 9 p.m., it's really popping for food delivery. Grocery has those same peak times, but they're at different hours. In fact, there's a lot of overlap with grocery delivery. So I find it's a great supplement to the other experiences, whether it be rideshare, delivery, or all of them. So the busy times are between 7 a.m. and noon. Now, depending on your area, some grocery stores open at 6 a.m., but I played around with this getting up early, and I have some stores that are open early, but people aren't really ordering like groceries at 6 o'clock in the morning. But it might be worth playing around with in your market if your local grocery store is open that early. So you could put a hyphen and say maybe 6 o'clock just to test around with, but for sure between 7 and noon, it starts off slow at 7, but orders start to gradually come in. and it just starts to kind of peak around, I want to say 9 o'clock, and that peak can kind of stay peaking till like 11, and then it starts to taper off at 11:30, and it's kind of finished between noon and 1 o'clock. So I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I got up early it was 2 weeks ago. So I got up early and I got my first request like at 7:13 a.m. And I just kept getting requests. I just kept going. And normally I assumed it was going to be done around like 9 o'clock. That's when orders would slow down, but it actually kept going. And I was surprised. And as it kept going, before I knew it, it was almost lunchtime. And by lunchtime, I mean like the lunchtime when delivery starts to take off. Like orders really only slow down around 10:30. And by that point, it's like, well, I might as well kind of stay out here because it's going to start getting busy on the food delivery side because we're entering lunchtime. So I was just kind of shocked that it lasted that long. In fact, to give y'all a visual of some of the stuff that I'm talking about, let me go ahead and pull up some pictures because I do have screenshots in regards to some of the trips that I've done. And it's going to play into my tips too. No pun intended. So as we see on the screen, oh my gosh, this freaking thing. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Okay, whatever. That's fine. So as y'all can see, this is an example of like a trip that I've taken. And let's look at the mileage. So you see it went under 2 miles and it paid $14.69. Well, that's great, right? Let's look at another example. This one paid $19.03 and it went 4.27 miles. In case you notice, that's way above like $1 per mile, which is awesome. And lastly, this trip was for $15 or $15.02. And it went a little under 9 miles, which is still in that $1 per mile threshold. So there we go. The next busy time for Uber Eats Shop and Pay is between 4 and 9 p.m. It starts off kind of slow at 4 and just kind of goes up and starts to peak around 7 o'clock. Then it starts to trickle back down until you hit 9 o'clock. Now, for some markets, that might be 8 o'clock, so do some experimentation, but you could just say between 4 to 8 or 4 to 9. So those are the times of day where it's real busy on the on the grocery shopping side when it comes to Uber Eats Shop and Pay. Of course, this is during the weekdays. The weekends kind of follow the same cycle too, but it's not uncommon to see some kind of activity in the deader times because the nature of it being the weekend. Just like with rideshare and food delivery, where it's not too crazy to see a decent amount of activity in the quote unquote dead hours. So keep that in mind. Tip number 2, when you're shopping, right, and you can't find an item, and it's going to happen eventually. Like, it might not be that you can't find it or it's not there. It's just that you can't find it. One trick that I learned to do is actually to start scanning by price. I mean, scanning like I'm going through the aisles and looking for something, especially if it's something small. I actually take a step back and actually just look at, okay, what is the price of this? And the app will show you what the price is. And once the app shows you what the price is, take your scanning and apply it to the numbers. So this is $3.99, $4.99, $5.99. And you'll see that the layer of aisle in the store is sectioned off in prices. So you might be looking in an area and something costs $17.99, but you're looking in this area and it's on the aisle, but this whole section you're looking at has a bunch of $2.99 stuff. You automatically know not to even look in that section because there's no way it could be there. So you can go ahead and keep moving on down the aisle to find the item. That is extremely helpful because I wasted a lot of time early on just trying to find the item, scanning like the whole aisle. And I eventually did, but if you scan by price, if you don't immediately see it, that is a great help. Next, we have, this is more so for accepting trips. Have a set minimum that you're willing to accept and have a maximum item count. Let's break down the set minimum. So By set minimum, I mean like I don't take anything that's under double digits. So it has to pay at least $10, no matter what. Because I know my market people are generous. They're great tippers. So if I take something that's under $10, there's an opportunity cost. I could have gotten something even better, but I took this like $6 order or something. So I don't take any shop and pay order that's paying under $10 at all, period. But you got to decide what is that number going to be for your market. And once you decide that, keep in mind the general mileage you're willing to drive to. For the most part, I don't ever want to drive more than like, I'll say 7 miles. So it needs to be under 7 miles too. So for me, at least paying $10 and the total distance is under 7 miles. And what I mean by what's the maximum item count you're willing to do? Let's pull up a screenshot. But while I'm pulling that up, you'll actually be able to see how many items something will be before you actually take the order. In fact, unfortunately, I don't have a screenshot. I'll put that in the editing if I clip this, but it'll say 5 items, 6 items, 7 items. And this isn't to be confused with the units. It'll say the items and the units. The amount of units can be like 13, but it can only be 2 items. And the 2 items are like, let's say, sugar and salt. So it's just 13 units of like a combination of sugar and salt. That's still relatively simple because once you find where the sugar and salt is, you're just getting 13 of those. So I don't really care much about the units unless they're getting like a bunch of heavy stuff. Then I might take that in consideration. But for me, I don't like to go over 7 items. And the 7 items, honestly, if it's 7 items, I expect for it to be like over $13. But ideally, I want to be able to go in there, find like a few items, and get out pretty fast. Like some of these orders come in where it's like 42 items. It's like, look, that's too much. I don't care how much it's paying, unless it's paying like $40 or something. Then I might think about it. But decide what that number is going to be for you. Next up, we have choose a virtual Uber card. Don't pay with your money. So Uber Eats Shop and Pay. There are some restaurants or some stores where you can actually Uber has some kind of partnership with them. So you get a QR code and you just scan the QR code and then boom, it pays that way. Those are great. But for the most part, the majority of restaurants, you're going to have to pay using a Uber Eats Plus card. So they're either going to mail you one or you get when you sign up for Uber Eats Pay, or you're going to have the option to get a virtual card where they'll just add this virtual card to your Google Wallet if you have Google Wallet. And I think they have the same thing for Apple Pay. Select that option because for one thing, you don't have to wait for the real card to come in the mail. That could take a while. But if you just do the virtual card, it's pretty much you can be good to go that day. But the reason I say don't pay for it using your own money, when you go to these type of orders, it will ask if you want to use the Uber Eats Plus card or if you want to pay using your own money, and Uber will reimburse you the amount because you got to take a picture of the receipt. That's overcomplicating it. Don't ever do that. Just use the Uber Eats Virtual Plus card, and you'll be good to go in that regard. Don't use your own money. That is just going to complicate the process. And you won't get reimbursed until the next pay period. So if you buy stuff like today on Monday, you won't see that reimbursed until a week from then. So why even do that? Next up, we have attempt to memorize the store layout, and owls on app can be wrong. So this is pretty simple. I would start shopping at a store that you're actually familiar with because you're going to know where stuff is more. But even with that being said, you'll see that Uber will put the owls on the screen, or Uber will put the owls on the app, like where the item could be. And the bad news about this is they're relying on the shoppers to input this information for them. And shoppers can be wrong. They could just not put any information, or even worse, they could be sabotaging by putting, because when you do something, it'll ask you like, when you find an item, it'll ask you like, hey, what hour was this on? And what if they put it on hour 2 and it was on hour 10, because they're trying to discourage like shoppers, their competition, quote unquote. Look, people can do it. I wouldn't put it past them. So I would just take into the account that the owl can be wrong on the app because it's not like an Uber representative is going in there and double checking this stuff. So just keep in mind that what they say, like the signs above each owl, takes precedent over what the app is going to say. If it lines up perfect, if it doesn't, then don't think the item has to be an owl according to the app. Next tip is attempt to memorize. Oh, wait, I'm repeating myself. Tip number 6, rather, or the next tip, is oftentimes you'll need to scan the QR code for Uber to verify that the item is right. And there are multiple barcodes on items sometimes, and you could accidentally scan the wrong code because your phone picked up that code before the actual one, and they'll say that this item is incorrect. If you're sure this is a pack of Skittles and it has the same colors and it's the same measurement and everything is like lining up, why isn't it going through? Just check to see if there's multiple barcodes on the back, and oftentimes there is, and just try and scan it again, the appropriate like big code, and you'll see that it will go through. It just accidentally picked up that smaller code. That's why you got an error. Next tip, we have keep in mind age items. So what do I mean by that? Hold on a sec. All right, what I mean by that is alcohol is part of grocery shopping. And when you are grocery shopping and someone has alcohol in their delivery, you will need to follow the normal protocol of buying alcohol, which means that someone in the store will need to see your ID. Why is this important? Well, it's important to keep in mind how busy that store is. And if they're real busy at a certain time of day, you see how that could be a problem because it will inhibit your ability to get in there and get out in a timely manner. And it won't have anything to do with your speed. It's because someone has to check your ID and no one's available to check your ID because they're so busy. Like everyone's on the register or something like that. If you know that scenario is going on in the store, I would actually just reject that order. Or if I take the order, I check all the items and see if there's any alcohol. And if there's alcohol there and it's a certain time of day and that store is kind of known for people not being too accommodating the staff, I would just cancel the order. So you want to make sure you just kind of think about that. Now, in my case, like there's a local Tom Thumb grocery store and they have self-checkout and they have like cashiers working the register. And there's someone always there at self-checkout, making sure everything is going smoothly. So when I go there and someone has beer in their order, the self-checkout is going to say, hey, you need to, someone needs to verify that you're old enough to buy this, right? So the light starts blinking, signaling someone to come over there. In fact, here's a visual of let me get this stuff off. Yeah, here's a visual of what you'll see on the screen from an Uber perspective. It says this order contains age-restricted items, so someone will need to check your ID. And someone is always there to get me checked out in a timely manner. I just show them the ID. It's as simple as that. Boom. You want to make sure that scenario is going on if you're going to be taking orders with alcohol. And this is a trial and error thing. You won't know if a store is kind of incompetent until you go there and try it out. If you just have a hard time getting someone to check you out, make a mental note of that for the future. And finally, the last tip, we're going to stay with the alcohol. When you're scanning an ID, because when you arrive at the delivery spot, you won't be able to leave at the door. It's mandatory that you check for sobriety. And I will go over this in visual detail in the Uber Eats like shopping page tutorial. But you got to check for sobriety. And then you got to verify that they have an ID and scan it. The app is not clear on how exactly you're supposed to scan it. So you're going to probably assume, like I did, that you just scan the whole ID in the rectangle box that it gives you, when that's actually not the case. What you want to do is tell the customer to turn their ID around. It has to be the back of their ID, not the front. And you got to zoom in on the barcode of the ID itself, and it's going to scan that to verify the person is 18, and then you can complete the delivery. For the longest time, I didn't know that. I was just scanning the whole ID, and it would take like a whole minute, maybe 2 minutes to scan the barcode. because it's so far away. And as you can imagine, that's kind of like awkward and irritating for the customer to be standing there for no reason and it's not scanning, and I was thinking there's something wrong with my phone. No, it's supposed to be scanning the barcode. That's why it's taking so long. So just go ahead and zoom in on the barcode. Boom, it scans in like 5 seconds. Then they sign off on it, and you're good to go. I'm real glad to share that tip because for the longest time, I just felt like there's no way to speed it up. I was like, is this always going to take like 1 to 2 minutes to scan someone's freaking ID? It's like, man. But now y'all don't have to deal with that. So, with that being said, that covers the Uber Eats shop and pay tips that I wanted to share with y'all. If y'all have any questions about Uber Eats shop and pay or just the gig economy in general, feel free to drop them in the comments section. I'm going to review the chat because I haven't actually been looking at the chat that much during this stream. And if we don't have any questions, we'll go ahead and call today early because I do have somewhere to be in about like 30 minutes. But any questions or comments, leave them in the chat. Or if you want to come on the show for a few minutes and ask your question, just put that in the chat too. I can drop the link. While that happens, let me drink some water because my voice is getting a little hoarse. All right, let's look at the chat. Now, it doesn't look like we have any comments. I will have to apologize for the reaction boys. I know y'all have kind of gotten accustomed to me reacting to content in every stream. But I thought that I would give the gig economy some shine because that is the foundation of the channel. That's where the channel came from. And just something I did recently start getting into is the Uber Eats shop and pay. And I think it is a great opportunity. I will say that I don't think it stands on its own. So you could do just rideshare and make decent money, semi-decent. You could do just food delivery and make decent money too. I don't think you could do just shop and pay and make decent money because I don't think that the demand is there enough yet. Maybe Uber doesn't have enough market share because it could take 30 minutes for like a shopping delivery to come through, but the shopping delivery actually does pay something decent, like $15 or $20. So that's great. So let's say you take a $15 delivery, a shopping order, and you do it, and it takes 30 minutes, or let's just say 35 minutes. All right, that's great. So you would be making $15 an hour, right? Well, if you actually are doing other things, like let's say food delivery too, uh, my McDonald's order comes in for like $6. Like normally you probably wouldn't take that because it's not worth your time, but you just finished a shopping order where you only have to drive like 2 miles and the McDonald's is across the street from the store, right? And it's paying $6 and you only want a few miles for that. Well, now you slide that $6 order in because it actually makes it worth it because you could do that in 25 minutes to go ahead and finish the hour out. And now instead of having $15 an hour for that hour, you now have $21 an hour. You see how the shop and pay actually enhances your earnings, but I don't think it's big enough to completely like have its own category where like, well, I'm just gonna do shop and pay today. I'm not gonna do any like food delivery, and I'm also not gonna do it like any rideshare. Shopping does need to be combined with something else in order to make ends meet, to have something decent at the end of the day, in my opinion. So it needs to be combined with rideshare, which actually is a great partnership with rideshare because groceries don't stink up your car. Like one thing about doing rideshare and food delivery is when you're doing rideshare and you're doing food delivery, you need to have some way of airing your car out because it's going to smell like Popeye's chicken or pizza or a burrito. And when the next rideshare request comes in, they might feel a certain way about like, why does it smell like Papa John's in here? And what if they're not a fan of Papa John's? Well, if you're doing grocery shopping in rideshare, now you're going to get a complaint because groceries, they don't have a smell for the most part. So it actually combines nice with rideshare, and it combines nice with food delivery because I just gave you an example of how they combine nice. And if you're like me and you'll just consider doing all three, whichever one is paying the most at the time, well, this is an excuse to print money. And you can have these 150, 200, maybe $250 days because you know what's popping at what times. and you just leave all options on. And when something comes through, you just filter it through your filters. Like for me, rideshare has to be at least $1.50 per mile. Food delivery has to be at least $1 per mile. And for shopping order, I don't use a per mile percentage, but it has to at least be paying $10, and it has to be going under 7 miles. So you're just giving more options to, as Sergio puts from the rideshare guy, cherry pick. That cat's funny with it. But I'm looking at the chat and I don't see any comments. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and call it a day. Like I said about the grocery shopping, this isn't a tutorial. I'll make an official tutorial. They'll be breaking down like the visuals and stuff that I'm talking about, so that y'all can have that to reference. But let's go ahead and call it a day. Like the video if you found value in it. Very much appreciate it. And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you're new. And check out the membership link that's dropped in the chat if you want to support the channel and unlock additional perks like getting videos early and unlocking certain members-only content, in addition to my best-selling book that's on audiobook, The Anatomy of Financial Success. Catch y'all later.